Hello and welcome to our 7-8 minutes of weekly Torah talk. Our guest today is Rabbi Daniel Freelander, President of the World Union for Progressive Judaism. Hello, Rabbi. Thank you for being with us.
Glad to be with you in Chag Sameach.
In Simchat Torah, we read the last parsha of the Torah, Vezot HaBracha. Vezot HaBracha recounts the blessings that Moses gave to each of the 12 tribes of Israel before his death, echoing Jacob's blessings to his 12 sons a few generations earlier. Moshe empowers each tribe with its individual character within the community of Israel at large. Following the blessings, Moshe ascends Mount Nevo and then he dies. The Torah concludes by attesting that there arose not a prophet since in Israel like Moses, like Moshe. The parsha begins with this pasuk, Vezot habracha asher berach Moshe ish Elohim et bnei Israel lifnei moto, and this is the blessing with which Moses, the man of God, blessed the children of Israel before his death. So, Rabbi, blessing the tribes or blessing the following generation, is that one of the missions that the leader ought to do before he dies?
Well, he does it in many ways. We do it by passing Torah on to the next generation. But it's interesting to contrast how Jacob blessed his sons, which was sort of a make sure you don't mess it up. And Moses, how he blesses the tribes, which is very optimistic. You're going to be great people. You're going to be victorious. You're going to be able to achieve. You're going to be great leaders. Shows what kind of leader Moses was. He was empowering the next generation. And that's why I think it's especially appropriate that the Torah ends on this very positive note towards the tribes, because frankly, they weren't always easy for Moses to deal with.
Right.
But none of that negativity flows into the parasha this week.
Maybe it's easier for Moshe than it was to Yaakov, because Jacob gave personal blessings to very specific to his actual sons, while Moses speaks to the tribes. These are people with whom he's familiar, but it's not really his sons and daughters.
But to some degree, it's like an ethical will. And what are your aspirations for your children, for your family, for your congregation, for your community? Not so much what are your fears. And that, again, it relates to Moses' greatness and his love for the people of Israel. Listen, you can put it in political terms. There's not very much negative in here. There's negative campaigning and positive campaigning. He's getting them ready for the next campaign. They're on the cusp of entering into the promised land, and he's giving them a pep talk.
Right. The Torah doesn't quite tell us, but I always wonder, where was Joshua when Moshe was giving this blessing? Where did he stand there? Was he outside? What is his role in this great drama of ending Moses' life?
He knows that he's going to become the leader. And his ego is strong enough saying, this is Moses' moment. Moses gets to shape it any way he wants. This is Moses' great farewell to the people that he led and loved. And he keeps his nose out of it. He stays out of the limelight because he knows that as soon as the 30 days of mourning is over, he's going to have to take over. So I guess he's pretty wise. He doesn't interfere in this. He allows Moses to shape it. And listen, we know from the text that there's a calm transition of authority, of power, that the people have already been sold on the selection of Yoshua as the next leader, and no one's contesting it, and it moves forward smoothly. So I think they both read their scripts very well, or wrote their scripts very well, and I think it's appropriate for Moses to get all the attention in this parasha.
It is interesting, this is not just, we are not just ending to read the Torah, we are celebrating, we have a special holiday, Simchat Torah, for celebrating this, but there is a difference between ending the Torah in Moses' life, because then the people move to the next phase. They're entering the land, they have a new leader. So it's a new beginning, but it's a different beginning. For us today, the new beginning of the Torah is the exact same beginning of last year. We are just going back to Bereshit as we did a year ago.
No, but we're different people than we were a year ago. We're going to read it differently in 5777 than we did in 5776. World events have changed us. Our family events have changed. One of the extraordinary pieces of reading Torah over and over is that as we grow and mature or change, we find different things in the text and we perceive them very differently. Even the very beginning of Bereshit, the story of creation, feels differently depending on what's going on in your world. You know, for me this year, it's global warming is going to be a theme that runs through my reading of Bereshit, which frankly it wasn't for me last year.
Right.
But that's because we're in 80-degree heat in the middle of October right now.
Right. Tell me, in Simchat Torah, we dance with the Torah scrolls. Now, I wonder, in our age of digital books, when the meaning of having a physical presence of a Torah scroll seems almost outdated, why do we still value the actual scroll?
Well, for study purposes, it may be outdated. But for physical purposes, for the symbolic purposes, I don't think it will ever be outdated. You know, you can think it. When I dance with the Torah, when I carry a child, it's like carrying a child. You put all this affection into this physical object, and you know, I work with new congregations in parts of the world where there are very few Jews, and there is a palatable difference of when they read Torah from a book or from an iPad, or if they read Torah from a scroll. The most precious possession that they can ever acquire, what establishes them as a kehillah, is the acquisition of a Torah scroll. So it's a physical manifestation of Judaism, of God, of kehillat, of Morashat Kehillat Yaakov. It's a physical manifestation, just like our children are physical manifestations of our own future.
And you don't see a future in which Jews will dance with their iPads in Simchat Torah.
No, they do that every day anyway. It's like the transition from newspapers to iPhones or digital media. You know, everyone still reads. They just read it in different formats. But there's some physical piece. Now, maybe I'm thinking about Google Glasses.
Right.
So maybe someday when Torah gets projected and I don't have to have anything physical in my hand, but at least now I get to swipe Torah and move on to the next page. I think the physical connection with who we are, as long as we have physical bodies, and maybe when we don't have physical bodies anymore, we'll move to something else. But I think the physical symbolism of Torah, not so much for study purposes, but for touching, for holding, for symbolically looking at, will remain.
Tell me, at the end of the cycle, what are we celebrating? That it's finally over, or that we are beginning it anew?
Well, it's a continuity of the Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur theme. You know, with that we are capable of beginning again. That for all the screw ups that we did in the past year, and all the mess ups that happened in between the Jewish people and God and the Jewish people and Moses, there's an opportunity to start over. And we don't start over by denying the past. We start over by reading the past and by reinterpreting the task and learning from the past. So I think it's an extraordinarily positive message. It suggests to us that there are certain core documents and values that are worth reading over and over in our lifetime, because they continue to guide us and move us in important directions. And frankly, you know, the whole Ben Bagbag Mishnah of turn it again, that you'll always find something new in it, is very, very true. And so I find it to be a very positive message. That, you know, I always, when you finish a project that you've been deeply involved in, there's a sadness that comes after you finish. There's no sadness after we finish reading Bezot HaBracha. There's joy because, we get to go on to something just as good. In fact, it is as good.
Right.
So I contrast this with almost every other sort of, there's no letdown here. It's a positive message.
Do you feel the same thing about the end of the Torah? Is there not a melancholic taste to the last psukim of the Torah?
Well, there is because Moses dies and we don't know where he's buried, and but death is a part of life, and the way that we deal with the death of our great leaders, of our great family members, really does impact us. And the brilliant part of the Jewish people is they dealt with the death of Moses by mourning and then by moving on. The next chapter is not a chapter, the beginning of Yoshua is not a chapter of bickering. It's a chapter of getting their act together and moving forward, right, which is what we hope people do when they rise up from mourning a loved one. So it's a good map for us. It's a good role model for us. Yes, well, it's always sad and melancholy when a loved one dies. The best respect that we can show them is to celebrate their life and to live their life lessons and move them forward. I'm thinking about how absolutely engaged everyone was in the death of Shimon Peres just a few weeks ago, and how to some degree it's disappeared now from the news cycle. Just a few weeks, within Shloshim, just right after Shloshim for him, right, we're on to life again, and that I think that's the lesson from here.
Rabbi, thank you so much. Hopefully, we'll all have a great new beginning, and Chag Sameach.
Chag Sameach to you, and thank you very much for having me on today.